What's more dangerous, finding the One Piece or two Yonkos allying with each other for the world government?
Finding the One Piece.
I disagree.
Emu act different when One Piece is involved, bro. When Vegapunk made his speech, look how he acted. They got reports that Kaido was coming to Marineford. They didn't tab any Gorosei members to go down there to make sure they could spawn people if need be. They went, all right, we'll see what happens. They didn't act. I mean, maybe it could be retconned that they did have somebody, a Gunko even there present to watch, to potentially. But to my knowledge, they didn't have anybody that Emu could Dami Reversi down there. So it's like, to them, Vegapunk's speech and more details about the ancient history is more dangerous to even two Yonkos linking up.
I do believe the One Piece is greater than two Yonkos. But from the newest chapter, we just seen Saturn. You said on Egghead, he had no one to Dami Reversi there. We just seen Saturn, and he do with Saturn.
No, but I'm saying they didn't plant anybody at Marineford to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't deem even that as a big enough threat to make sure if we gotta wipe it out, we gotta wipe it out.
That's the difference between government issues and marine issues.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the Yonko. Like, the speech was about whether or not this is a bigger threat to the world government, to Yonkos. Technically, it's still a marine issue.
Well, no, but
you know
it depends. If two Yonkos team up together and went after the world government, then it's a government issue. It's not like a marine issue. Like if they went to Mary Jo or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm saying the threat of that existed, that they heard reports of it, they didn't take action for it. Granted, it was the same day that they heard these reports, but they didn't take immediate action.
So the reason why I disagree with you is because if the One Piece was as incredibly dangerous to the world government as you may seem to think, then why didn't they go to Wano and get rid of Odin? Why did they let Roger live out the rest of his years? Meanwhile, they won't even step foot into Wano because Kaido lives there.
But they don't gain much, in my opinion, from taking Kaido. I already said he helps maintain the balance of the world. When Whitebeard went down, what was their first thought about who the next Yonko would be? Because it maintains balance. Somebody's gonna replace the Yonko, because the Yonko system helps us. Like for what they're trying to achieve, domination of the world, the Yonko system does help them.
Again, it's not about one Yonko. It's the danger of Yonkos allying together, which is the choices I presented to you. If that Yonko, who they love being in position, allies with another one, they immediately become a danger to the world government because now they can use their forces, which amount to the world governments, to take them out. Therefore, they are a direct danger, whereas somebody learning the One Piece, they have to somehow take action, but they might not have the power or the influence to do so. Meanwhile, these two do. Why? Because in order to be a world government, you have to have what? Power, influence, territory, money. Yonkos have all of that. So essentially, they're versing another world government. It's best to take out your competition. That way you can run a monopoly on the world. When you don't have no competition, the competition is yourself.
Larry's not wrong, but also think with two Yonkos together, what if they decide to go after the One Piece? They would be able to do it. Part with Larry, what you're saying and what you're saying too, is that there's a balance here that they kind of fight against each other, so it's like they're struggling with her, and the Marines notice that. But the threat of two Yonkos is that they can surmount to the world government's power, in fact, probably even stronger. But now you have a threat that's as massive as the world government that could go after the One Piece itself, get it, and then now they can rule the world technically.
So, Preston, what's your take on this?
Man, Jesus, this is wonderful. Do we consider Kaido and Big Mom, do we consider that a team up in Wano? Yes or no?
Yes.
To Seb's point, we have seen them team up, and the world government doesn't necessarily jump. But anytime there is something dealing with the Void Century, the One Piece, anything that's like that, the world government gets very fidgety to where they start sending people down. We have seen that on a numerous of occasions to where we've seen them spawn Gorosei because Vegapunk was about to leak a crazy message. We see that now in the flashback. I agree with Seb. I don't think two Yonkos teaming together necessarily, it's dangerous, yes, but I think they fear more of discovering what truth is. And because we've seen it, we've seen to the point to where they will jump at the fact if something is going to be uncovered that we don't want to be uncovered, we're going to send somebody down.
So, Seb, who do you think has a higher bounty, Roger or Dragon?
I don't know, because they said Roger had the highest bounty in pirate history, but if Dragon's trying to take out the world government, they said he's the most wanted man alive after Roger's passing. So a part of me thinks Dragon will have a 5 billion berry bounty, and it will be lower than Roger's because Oda does play into the old legends are the old legends for a reason. And I don't think he would eclipse Roger's bounty because on some level it'll take away from that veneer. Part of the reason why I think he didn't give Rox a bounty, because if it was higher than Roger's, it would take away from Roger's veneer as well. So to me, I'll say it's Roger because I think that's more in line with what the story tells me.
Who's the only other person that kind of has their information suppressed about them during their reign while they're alive and living, besides Dragon, during this time in the chapters right now? Rox. And what's Rox's goal?
The world.
Right. And what's Dragon's goal?
To overthrow the world government.
Right. This is all percentage, but I would think the higher percentage of a higher bounty is probably going to go to Rox or Dragon over Roger's bounty, because they're directly targeting the world government. You don't necessarily need the One Piece in order to do that, right?
But there's two.
Because Rox doesn't need the One Piece.
The issue with Rox is that they've implemented bounty inflation. If Roger's bounty peaked 20 years after Rox was gone, there was 20 years of inflation there. Unless we're like, Rox's bounty was $3 billion, adjusted for inflation, that's $6 billion. Like, I don't know what Rox's bounty would be in that time, unless we adjust it for inflation, and then who knows what that actually is. Like, we're now getting into bounty inflation. It's hard to say for that with Rox, but what would their bounties be now? I would say what Rox was doing, or should clear Dragon's bounty now.
But would it clear Rogers?
Would it clear Rogers?
If it should, that means that necessarily when we go back to the choice I gave you between the two Yonkos being allying and being a threat to the world government, or the One Piece, that just proved that the Yonkos would be that threat, because they're going to be going after the world government. That was their goal.
All right, so this is something I was going to say a little earlier. With the Yonkos allying, how many times do y'all think that has happened?
They haven't allied once.
They've never been able to successfully do it, so it doesn't happen. When they do get together, they tend to fight. Almost every time we see Yonkos get together,
they
the
fight.
sky split. It's such a far-fetched thing to the world government, they don't focus on it. But as far as whether they should and whether it's an actual fear, then we get into, okay, if Kaido is this strong and Big Mom is this strong, and they have these crews, etc., are they stronger together now, or a bigger threat than Rox with his crew at God Valley? And that's a different question. If Rox is capable to do what he's doing right now, casually taking out admirals, casually taking out Garling, and he's got Whitebeard, young Kaido, Chicky, etc., is that a bigger threat than the current Big Mom pirates and current Peace pirates together? Is that a bigger threat than the old Whitebeard / pirates with the current Red Hair pirates?
That's the point that I'm making. Directly challenging the world government depends on if you can actually challenge. Even with Dragon, even if he doesn't have the resources, he still has a bounty that can be considered higher than Rogers, even though he's found the One Piece. And I think that speaks to the fact that as long as you're considering them a threat, if you can put it into action, that's only going to make everything much worse for the world government. So two allied Yonkos is a big threat. Why? Because they have the territories, because they have the manpower. Rox, what did he have? Pirate Island and a few conquerors. He didn't have a massive army. He didn't have territory. He was gaining money, but he didn't have the means, and also he wasn't directly going to challenge them. He said he'd be back. What Dragon is trying to do is become the next Rox, technically, and they already consider him at this level. So that's what I'm saying is like, I think that the One Piece where Roger was allowed to be executed, was allowed to speak before he was executed.
I get what you mean. They made sure to erase Rox, but that's in part because the legend didn't reach the world yet the way that Roger did. Like, they couldn't catch up to Roger and stop him from getting to Laugh Tale or whatever. And then the legend became what it became because he had already done that. And then they tried to take him out and they made the mistake of allowing him to speak. The legend became the legend in part of actions that Roger took, not just actions that the world government didn't take.
Put it this way too, Ohara, they didn't know what the One Piece was. They only knew the name of the kingdom, and yet they got nuked. But Roger knew the One Piece and was allowed to step on a podium, walk through the streets, and speak without a muzzle on. So if the One Piece was as dangerous of information as they wanted everybody to believe, why was he allowed the capacity to talk at all?
So based off Vegapunk's speech, the world government didn't seem to know what Roger found out. Vegapunk started alluding to them knowing more, saying, hey, the Roger pirates uncovered this truth, but the fear that the information could get out is what triggers their actions. If Roger pirates found this and then didn't say anything for years, it was just Roger became this legendary pirate. He's the Pirate King. And now he's becoming this mythos figure that's maybe mirroring what Joy Boy may have been at one time. And it's like, yo, we gotta get rid of this guy. When he comes to the time to execute him, he gives the speech and he becomes even bigger. We didn't anticipate all of that. But like, it wasn't world knowledge. Like, he got the Wrath, but it wasn't world knowledge that he found the One Piece. The One Piece wasn't called the One Piece till Roger said what he said. Nobody knows what's there. Even like Roger going after was like, okay, one pirate crew's going after. But now Roger incited a generation of pirates to try to go get it. So now it's like, yo, we can't allow none of that type of stuff to happen no more.
Isn't that a contradiction though?
What do you mean?
Because Ohara didn't learn the truth. They had knowledge and they were executed on the spot with no one else allowed to know what they did. And then they also hunted Robin about this information. She was able to decipher things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, even if they didn't know what was on Laugh Tale, they know that Laugh Tale is a very important island, and if Emu has the knowledge that this person has about Laugh Tale, then why was he allowed to walk the streets and not be able to have his mouth covered?
They could just take the Roger pirates out at any time. Like, that's the other part. Like, there's no, yo, Emu could just show up and the Gorosei could just show up and they would beat Roger. They probably just can't do that, one. And two, I don't believe it was also widespread knowledge that they had somebody even who could read the poneglyphs.
Yeah.
If somebody gets to Laugh-Tale and they can't decipher what's on there, it's like, okay, I hope you enjoyed it there.
Yeah.
But they did have somebody who could read it. All of those thought processes progressed because Roger ended up doing what he did. And Emo was able to decipher, like, all right, there's more to what that dude did than I realized. And we can't allow that again.
Okay, so you're saying that they knew somebody was on their crew, that they could decipher it, all that stuff, right?
I'm saying I don't know if they knew that either. He said, I left my treasure in one piece. And I don't even think that's the actual quote.
But they've been on to the island.
Yeah, they
And
knew they went to the island.
They knew Odin was on his crew.
Does the world government know Odin can read the pony list?
Wano created these tablet stones.
That doesn't mean Odin can read them.
I get what you're saying, but if I'm the world government, I have to assume that knowledge is be able to pass down. I have to take precautions,
but
right?
They're not actively in Wano to know.
That's it. You're explaining my point. Why not just go to Wano? Get rid of this information that's apparently known now.
Because for 800 years, it wasn't an issue.
We don't know if that's true either, because they were out here trying to build an ancient weapon with the giants that went to Water 7.
One thing I gotta add, it's kind of been stated with the world government, is that they view that you're too strong as a group or a nation, they won't attack.
But the thing is, Wano was unknown, but it's pretty easy to find out where just one Roger pirate and where they are. My point is, if you're gonna destroy an entire island, all they told them was, yo, y'all can study whatever y'all want to study, but y'all can't study this. And then they find out later that they were studying it. They didn't even know that Dr. Clover knew the name of the ancient kingdom. But before he was about to say it, they didn't even take the risk eliminating him and take the risk of eliminating anyone that possibly would have known, hence Akainu destroying the ship with all the civilians that apparently didn't know anything. Or on Egghead, where they possibly had some information and they tried to destroy them when they left the island, who were also civilians. It's the point of me saying, hey, the world government doesn't care if you know the information or not. It's the possibility of being around people who might know. And yet they took no caution with the Roger Pirates, and they let this man who was this generation's Michael Jordan roam free through the streets before executing him, and then let him speak out to the masses. So if the One Piece or any knowledge that could be a hindrance to the world government's governance, you're going to take that person out, but instead they let him speak. Why would they do that?
After Roger found the One Piece, he disbanded his crew, and for a year went by of like inactivity. That's when they found out that he was being all romantic with some woman. He might have had a kid there. Then he turns himself in. But he also didn't turn himself into the world government, but he turned himself into the Marines. It could be also part of the case. Roger turning himself in, yeah, he's in a weakened condition, but they don't know why he turned himself in. Maybe they know he's sick, probably do. But from what I can understand is that Roger's too strong for them to really try to take him out besides the way he wanted to go out. Like, he's in the custody of the Marines. So I don't know if they had a back and forth with the world government back on that. It's also Roger, this Pirate King level person that is too strong for anyone to really to deal with. The only person we know that would probably be able to try to do something like that is Garp. And that's why Shiki crashed out. He even said, it's impossible for Roger's strength for you Marines to have captured him and execute him. He said it doesn't make sense with Roger's strength. We see a case with Rocks. It doesn't make sense that when you're that strength for the Marines to capture you and just take you out. Roger turned himself in, changed that narrative for like they have control of it. Roger's in control, even though he's offering up his life, you know?
All right.